Here was Caroline Leavitt this morning, who was out talking about what's coming down the pike here. You can see she walked out, answered a couple questions from the press. C-SPAN published this just minutes ago, and here's what she said is coming soon.
Caroline, what do you say to critics of the president's education?
Was there criticism of our nation's failing test scores for the last several decades? The Department of Education was founded in the 1970s, and since then we have spent more than $3 trillion at this federal bureaucracy. What has been the return on that investment for the American taxpayer? Levels that are less than ideal, less than proficient. Our children's test scores are incredibly concerning when it comes to reading rates, literacy rates, math, and science test scores. The numbers prove that, and this president is finally taking much needed action to return education to where it belongs, and that's to educators closest to students in their classrooms in their respective states. We're going to have a great event here later at 4 o'clock. There will be students here, teachers here, parents here, educators, and of course governors from around the country who are very excited about taking on this responsibility.
Who's going to run federal student loans?
So the Department of Education will be much smaller than it is today. As the president's executive order directed Linda McMahon to greatly minimize the agency. So when it comes to student loans and Pell Grants, those will still be run out of the Department of Education. But we don't need to be spending more than $3 trillion over the course of a few decades on a department that's clearly failing in its initial intention to educate our students.
So is the federal government going to be spending less?
No, it won't.
As I said, Pell Grants and student loans will still be run out of the department in Washington, D.C., but the great responsibility of educating our nation's students will return to the states. Any critical functions of the department, such as that, will remain. But again, we're greatly reducing the scale and the size of this department.
Amazing. Caroline Leavitt saying, yeah, the department will remain, right? Any critical functions will remain there. And this is the same operation that they're running in other agencies. Same thing we saw with USAID and elsewhere. They can't really get rid of the agencies entirely. They'll just defund them and shrivel them down into a skeleton operation so that functionally they don't exist. And there was a clip of Andrew Napolitano actually going around. I don't have it queued up, but he was making some headlines because what Trump is doing is unconstitutional here, right? And he's talking about impoundment of funds. But what the administration is doing is getting clever because they're not ultimately impounding the funds. It's more like a temporary impoundment. They're just going to repurpose the funds, reallocate them to more productive entities and other agencies that don't dumb down our students and smear trans flags all over their faces. So Caroline Leavitt was out today. Lots cooking. We're excited about what is happening this afternoon. You can see today we also have, let me refresh this because that feels old. Maybe not. Okay, so Caroline Leavitt talked to the press a little bit earlier this morning. Kristi Noem was out this morning. UN had a council meeting on Israeli hostages, so I'm sure they're going to solve that one. Thanks, UN. NTSB providing updates on a bridge collapse. Yeah. Trump signing executive orders, 1 p.m. my time, so 4 p.m. Eastern time. Ilhan Omar will be out today, so mark your calendars. I know you're not going to want to miss that one. And Michael Bennett is holding a town hall, and Harriet Hageman is back in Wheatland, Wyoming. And there was a clip of her going around. She was getting scolded for January 6th, fake people in Wyoming, which I don't believe are real at all. So that's what's happening today. Of course, Congress and the Senate have just been doing whatever they do, not doing anything this week. I do have a clip of Jim Jordan, so he was doing some media stings out there. That's what is happening. Yesterday, we saw Jerome Powell was out over at the Fed. And he didn't raise rates yesterday. Some people were upset about that, Democrats in particular. And so Bloomberg reported on that, kind of things are holding steady. And they're saying, I thought we were in the middle of an economic catastrophe. I thought these tariffs were going to cause prices to skyrocket. I thought the whole world was going to die because of Trump. Don't you have to raise rates? No, just kept them the same. And look at this one. This is fun too. The tariff impact is transitory. Oh, I hope it is actually, because they said that same thing about inflation and it wasn't really transitory. It's pretty much transitioned right into our butts permanently. Democrats will burn down the Mariner next building. Powell's pushing stocks up, yields down, U.S. exports higher. Says the media is now furious, unleashing at Powell for daring not to hike right in Trump's face. Democrats will be painting swastikas on Mariner Eccles tomorrow, as soon as they figure out what it is. I don't even know what it is. It's from Zero Hedge. Things are fine. It's all the tariff hystericism is more hystericism. They're just mad. Their grift is coming to an end the same way they're mad that their USD funding is cutting off, that these FBI agents are being fired, that the civil servants are going to have to serve somewhere else and get real jobs. But here was more on Trump, and Secretary Wright came out, and he is the Secretary of Energy. Here, said yesterday in response to some of Powell and some of the stock market.
All energy that's affordable, reliable, and secure is a part of the Trump administration, and nuclear absolutely falls in that
Let's
category.
do it.
Here's a great nuclear southwestern Michigan that supplied nearly a gigawatt of power for decades. And again, I think was just foolishly closed and shut down during the Biden administration. But that plant should be back online, hopefully by the end of this year. And if not the end of this year, very early next year. Huge benefits. Nuclear
energy would be good. And I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, because it's Nuclear, nuclear. So hopefully the Secretary of Energy Department pronounces it accordingly. All right. So that's what's happening out there. Now, we've also got Michelle Obama. Talk about nuclear or nuclear. What is on her head? No one really knows, but her podcast wasn't getting much attention. She's trying something new. And these are interesting strategies. I've thought about this myself. In fact, I thought about doing it this morning so that we could be here together. See if I get some more subscribers and some more views. Then we could really have an impact on the planet.
But she got to the point where just physically, she needed more care than she wanted. And just the anxiety that comes with that, just realizing that's what mom and dad were dealing with.
Totally.
But she got to the point where just physically, she needed more care than she wanted. And just the anxiety that comes with that, just realizing that's what mom and dad were dealing with. But she got to the point where just physically, she needed more care than she wanted.
Yeah. So did I play that twice as I was making fun of her? I don't even know. But here, she's copying us. Okay. We already did this a long time ago, by the way. I don't know. I don't remember the context of this, but G-Gum took a screenshot of this from a real episode of a real show. We already tried this. Works. Thank you, G-Gum, for taking a screenshot of that live stream for that one. All right. So Democrats are trying. I appreciate the fact that they're trying hard on this, that they're working. There are a bunch of different strategies, like Chuck Schumer became Palestinian. Tim Walz is back out talking about Vietnam again. So a lot of different opportunities here. So we'll see how it works out for it. So we also now know elsewhere in the Trump administration, there are conversations about getting out of NATO, which would be a good idea because I don't know what the hell we're doing over there. And Just the News is saying the GOP is revolting. Don't you dare get out of NATO. Do you know how much money we're making from NATO? These Congress people are thinking. The Trump administration and their alleged consideration of withdrawing from NATO on Tuesday was reported by NBC News, went over like a lead balloon with the GOP chairs of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee. Oh, you're kidding. Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker and Alabama Mike Rogers, they released a joint statement after the NBC News report about Pentagon plans are under consideration to get out of NATO. The two defense officials told NBC News that could involve consolidating 5 of the military's 11 combatant commands. Chair said, the U.S. combatant commands are the tip of the American warfighting spear. All right. Therefore, we are very concerned about reports that claim the DoD is considering unilateral changes on major strategic issues. These Congress people, including significant reductions to U.S. forces stationed abroad, absent coordination with the White House and Congress. You guys aren't the commander in chief, so why don't you just sit down and shut up? While they support Trump's efforts, quote, to ensure our allies and partners increase their contributions to strengthen our alliance structure. Again, that is military technobabble for these guys. We will not accept significant changes to our warfighting structure that are made without a rigorous interagency process, coordination with combatant commanders, and joint of staff, and collaboration with Congress. Okay, so all of that means like you can't make any changes unless you go through all of this stuff, you do all of these things, and all of these things, an interagency process that is rigorous. You know what that means, right? Nothing gets done. Nothing changes. So if you want to make a change, you have to climb to the top of Mount Everest and then build a rocket ship and fly to the moon, and then you can get some changes made. Oh, so nothing will ever change ever is what you're saying. Yeah, that's what we're saying. But why don't you just say that? Because we can't say that. They wrote it that way instead. So Trump and Hegseth want to make some changes, wondering what we're doing protecting our European allies when our European allies are threatening American companies like Elon, saying, how dare you have free speech in your country? You're not going to be in trouble with our countries unless. Why are we going to defend the Germans when the German prosecutors are sitting there head bobbing like seals when they get asked dumb questions about putting people in jail for online speech? Oh, yeah, Sieg Heil. Yeah, definitely put them in prison. You go, what? You guys are crazy. What the hell happened over there? So they can figure it out themselves. And if they want to set up Russia, try to interfere with our elections, blow up their own pipelines in conjunction with the United States, and then try to instigate World War III, we don't want any part of it. So the senators, of course, they do want to be a part of it because they're embedded with the military industrial complex